Hello everyone and welcome to the latest edition of Artmaster Vision. Tonight I'm going to be painting this rather snazzy Artizan Landsknecht looter. He's carrying a nice treasure chest there and gazing off triumphantly into the distance. So we're going to start with the flesh. I've already picked out a colour scheme. It's very tempting to choose lots and lots of different colours because they're very colourful figures. You know, when I come to paint them, I tend to want to do a bit of red here, a bit of green, or a bit of blue, some yellow. But to be honest, it's good to pick 2 or 3 colours at most and just stick with that per figure. Otherwise it just becomes a big colourful mess. So I've chosen red, black and yellow. You'll see how I apply these as we go ahead, but as I said, starting with the flesh, using Vallejo Shadows Flesh, Panzer Aces. Okay, so that's the flesh undercoated. Now we're going to undercoat, we'll undercoat the white. I didn't actually mention white before, but the white is going to be used for in between the slits of cloth on the sleeves. So I'm using light grey to undercoat that. Now it's important to do this bit first because obviously it's not going to be, well, it's going to be quite messy, so we're going to touch up this afterwards because the slits are quite deep and quite thin, so you're more than likely going to get it on the edges like I am at the moment, but because they're black at the moment I'm not really worried about that. So just in the interest of time, I'm just going to splash some paint in there. Okay, so now that's done, yeah, that will about do it for that. Now we're going to quickly undercoat the feather. I'm going to use Iraqi sand for this, so we can wash it and then highlight it. You may have seen a similar thing I did on the Roman feather on the previous vision. Actually, I just mentioned that if you want to go and look at the back catalogue of visions, they are all recorded, so if you've missed some over the months we've been doing this, you can visit the actual Ustream Artmaster Vision page, and on there you will find links to all previous recorded visions. So, you know, if you ever at a loose end, you just feel free to pop on over and put one of those on and do a bit of painting or something. There should be actually a link on the Steve Dean forum to our Ustream Artmaster page, but if anyone wants, I can post a link to that elsewhere. You may have seen some recent updates to the website. We've recently made ourselves a Facebook page, and there's a Facebook link at the bottom of our website page. On there you'll find updates about future visions, painting tips, pictures of figures we've recently painted, etc, etc. So feel free to follow us on Facebook. You can also send messages to us on there. We always appreciate feedback and any painting questions you have. I'm using Vallejo black red to undercoat the red. This is going to be for his cloak that he's wearing. So I've just added a little bit of water to it and going to keep it nice and thin. And we spread it over the whole cloak. Another update we've had on the website recently is we've been putting more figures for sale on there. So feel free to check that out from the Emporium link on our website. It should be kept up to date quite regularly, so we'll be putting new stuff on every few weeks probably. I think I'll give him a red hat as well. Okay, so that's that. Now we can highlight the white quickly. I'm going to use vallejo off-white. Okay, so I'm going to give him some blonde hair. So we're going to use US field drab to undercoat that. Got a lovely big moustache. I always find moustaches make figures look quite interesting. Gives a lot of character to a face. But it's always tempting to paint a figure with a moustache with grey hair. I'm not sure why. I just have a sort of a preconception of big moustaches equals grey hair, but that's obviously not necessarily the case. They look just as good with brown or blonde hair, or even red hair. Okay, so that's that. Now we're gonna undercoat the strap, keeping his hat on. Well, that's going to be like an off-white colour, so we're going to use green-brown for that, which is fairly similar to US field drab. Okay, so I'm just going to undercoat the leather on his scabbard, and for this I'm going to use German camo black brown. I'll undercoat the treasure box as well with this. Do his little sandal shoes in this colour. Alright, so now I'm going to take some black and tidy up the white on the sleeves, etc. This is Andrea black, but any black will do really. Black is black. Quick notification, anyone who's interested, we are attending Salute this year, 2011. We'll have our own painting stand, so if you want to come talk to us, feel free. There'll probably be lots of miniatures on display, etc. and for sale. Okay, so now that's done, time to undercoat the yellow. I'm going to use burnt umber to undercoat this, which is brown, but this works fairly nicely for a yellow undercoat. It's not going to be an intensely bright yellow. So the thing about cloth on Landsknechts is that symmetry, or maybe not so much symmetry, but opposing colours tend to work well. So this part of his trousers will be yellow on this side, and on this side we'll do it black, and this will be black, but this will be black and yellow stripe, or it could just be entirely yellow. So, or actually, to mix it up slightly, we'll do the bottom half here yellow, so you've got black, yellow, and on the other side we'll do yellow stripe, so then you've got yellow stripe with yellow stripe. It's not really a science or anything, it's just knowing what areas to separate off and what to do on the opposite side. But obviously it's not a set rule, you don't have to have opposites. You could do entirely one half of the figure in one colour and the other half in another colour, and just have the odd stripe here and there. Okay, so that's all the yellow areas undercoated. Also, the black is undercoated, obviously, because black is black again. Don't need to undercoat black, as it's primed black already. The treasure box, I'm going to do a highlight with the same burnt umber colour, which will be followed by English uniform. So the box won't be yellow, it'll be just more of a yellowish brown. Alright, so now it's fully undercoated, we can move on to highlighting. I'm going to wash over the feathers first to give those time to dry using Games Workshop Devil and Mud Brown Wash. So as you can see, it's made it nice and easy. It's going into all the creases in the feather, shading it for me, and it just leaves me to do the highlighting. So now I'm going to do the first highlight on the flesh. I'm going to use flat flesh, or flesh base, sorry. Great thing about faces with moustaches is it makes the face incredibly easy to paint. Because you've just got usually the forehead and the eyelids. Below that you have the cheeks, or just the tops of the cheeks, a nose and a bit of chin. So there's no real effort involved in shaping the face or the cheekbones themselves, because the moustache generally covers that. Alright, so that's that. Now I'm going to quickly highlight the red using my favourite first highlight, red, which is 033. As always, there is another red, 029, which is the second highlight, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly dry that off. I've actually made a little bit of a mistake there. You can see where the paint has run into the crease here. I didn't expect to do that, so I'm just going to have to touch that up. Also, I think I might stick him on a plastic base because this card isn't really holding up. As you can see, this temporary base is not that good. So I'm just going to stick him on a plastic base. Here we go. We'll stick him on one of these bases. Not sure if you can see this, but it's actually pre-recessed. So when you stick the figure in, the base that he's on, or the metal that he's on really, is dipped inside. So it makes it much easier to, as you can see, his feet match up to the side of the base there. So that makes it much easier to base him without him looking too elevated. So I'm just going to put a blob of super glue in the middle, not too much, and plop him inside there. Might be a good idea to actually score the base with a knife in a crisscross fashion. That will help the glue hold better. I'm just going to quickly dry this off now before we continue. Okay, so now we can continue painting without worrying about him flopping about on his card base. So as I said, I'm just going to quickly touch up this red on the cloak. Okay, so moving on, we'll do the highlight on the leather. I'm going to use flat brown. This is on the scabbard. Okay, so now for the first proper highlight to the yellow, golden brown. This is on top of the burnt umber colour we used. Also, using brown for an undercoat for yellow is a good way to get around the fact that yellow doesn't cover black very well. So perhaps, even if you don't want to have this as the first highlight, if you would like this golden yellow to be the first, or the actual undercoat, if you pre-undercoat the undercoat with a brown, then it will make undercoating with this yellow much easier. Alright then, so that's the yellow sorted. Now we can move on, and I'm going to leave the black till last actually. So now I'm going to move on to the first highlight on the hair using tan yellow. Okay, so now we're going to do the second highlight to the box he's holding. I'm going to use English uniform for this. Okay, so now we're using Pal Sand for the highlight on the feather. So we started with Iraqi sand as a base coat, then we washed with Devlin mud, and now we're just getting a quick highlight with Pal Sand. Now we're going to use Iraqi sand for the hat tie that's keeping the hat on his head. Almost dropped it then. Alright, so that's that. Now we're going to do the second highlight to the flesh using flat flesh. Okay, so now we're just going to add a second highlight to the scabbard using mahogany brown. We'll also highlight the shoes with this. Okay, now for the red, I'm going to take red and highlight the red. But I'm going to mix in a little bit of the red with the red. The red, red, red. So that's a little bit of this mixed in to a bit of this. As you can see here, this is the darker one, this is the lighter one. I've put some in, we're giving it a mix. I might put a little bit more in, just to tone it down slightly so it's not so harsh on the highlights. Okay, so that's the second highlight to red. Now we're going to add the second highlight to the yellow. This is going to be light yellow, going on top of golden brown, which was on top of burnt umber. So you can see the massive difference between these two colours, but as you'll see, it does turn out quite nicely. So sometimes a lot of contrast does suit certain colours, such as white and yellow particularly. It just depends on how you apply them. If you don't like as much contrast, you could always mix the colours. So you could still start with burnt umber. You could just add burnt umber and golden brown, and then put golden brown on top, and then a mix of golden brown and light yellow for the final highlight, just to make the transition smoother. But to be honest, there's not very many large areas of cloth on this figure, so I don't feel it's that necessary to be subtle. Okay, so now we're going to pop some black on, and we're going to use Andrea black. This is number 4, the first shadow. Apologise for my creaky chair if you can hear that in the background. I really like using black and yellow together. I just think it's a nice high contrast. Sort of the bumblebee mix. Other good colour combinations would be purple and yellow, red and green, blue and orange, black and white, or pretty much anything with white. maybe not yellow and white, but you can get away with that depending on how you use it. Green and yellow is a nice combination. I've just noticed a little bit of yellow that I missed, so I'm going to go back to the gold and brown just under there and just pop a bit on there. Now I'm going to take some off-white and highlight the strap on the hat. Someone's just mentioned the Steve Dean forum, which we regularly visit, and it is definitely a fantastic forum. It's probably the best place to go to browse regular pictures that people put on and talk about topics relating to not just painting but miniatures as well, and gaming. Everyone on there is generally quite friendly, just a good atmosphere really. It's a good place for inspiration. I'm just going to quickly do the sword handle in silver. This is bolt gun metal. Now we're going to do the second highlight on the black using number 2, which is the first light. Again from the Andrea Black set. Alright, so that's that. We might just add an extra highlight in a moment. Put the eyes in using off-white. And just going to take some brown just to tidy up this eye here. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of white into the second light that we used from the Andrea Black set. It's going to be quite bright, but we're going to use it quite sparingly. This is a great way to brighten up black without making it too light, because if you're worried that the black that you've painted is too dull or too dark, just splash a little bit of a very light grey here and there, just on the edges or the highest folds of the cloth, and it will still make it look black, but it will make it pop out to your face a bit more. So from a distance you can see the detail better. If anyone wants to know what that black triad is again, this is Andrea black, but use any old black to start off with. Highlight with number 4, which is the first shadow from the Andrea black set. Then highlight with number 2, which is the first light. And then I just added some white for some extra little highlights here and there. Okay, so he's nearly finished now. We're just going to pop some extra highlight to the moustache and beard, just using ivory or pale sand. I'm going to take a bright silver. This is Model Air Steel. This will be the highlight for the silver on the sword handle. And there we have the finished figure. You could go a little bit extra and add some orange highlights here and there, just on the highest folds of the cloth, or even some white to the yellow. But I'm quite happy with him as he is. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this Artmaster Vision. Again, check out our website. We've got new figures for sale. We've got new updates, such as our new Facebook page. If you want to follow us on there, you'll get updates on future visions, painting tips and pictures. Please visit the Steve Dean forum for some excellent painting advice, inspiration, etc. If you have any questions about painting in general, just feel free to email me. Thanks again for watching, and good night.